I would like to talk about the kind of infrastructure that makes it possible. So just Nokia, I guess Nokia had something like 40% of the market share on telephones or phones at one point, also smartphones before iPhone came along. And now we don't make phones anymore. You can soon buy a Nokia phone in the company, but that's just branded by us. We don't make those. But I would guess that about 40% of you are utilizing Nokia products right at this moment. And that's because Nokia makes networks, and your handsets, smartphones, are constantly communicating, even without you, with the services, updating their software, getting new data, etc. And that's what Nokia makes, the communication networks that make this possible. And our customers are nowadays companies like Deutsche Telekom, Orange, etc. All over the world. So we're the largest now. This is, by the way, an European industry, dominated industry, to do three big network manufacturers in the world. Ericsson and us, both based in Europe, and then the third one is Chinese, so Huawei. But all the American ones have been absorbed. We have been buying a couple of them. So European industry. But what networks? Why networks are so important? For one thing, none of the things described by Lopo there would be possible without networks. None of those services, none of the machine or the language recognition would be possible without networks. And networks are also the biggest thing really, or you could call machine in the world. Just last week, we passed the mark that now more than 5 billion people are individually connected to mobile networks. So 2/3 of the population on Earth, which is about 7.5 billion. But last winter, roughly half a year, we actually passed the point when there were more mobile connections used by humans than there are humans. So there are about 7.7 billion mobile connections used by humans at the moment. That's because many of us have more than one phone or device connected to the networks. And in addition, there are a few 100 million connections already for machines. Obviously, there's some kind of limit for machines or devices for human connection, but there is not really a limit for how many machines can be connected to the networks, because there may be, in the next 10 years, we maybe get up to almost 10 billion people on the Earth, but there may be 50, 100 billion, or a trillion, depending what you ask, machines on Earth who have some kind of need for connection. So that's going to be a huge step, and that's already started. So how can networks do this? I'd like to talk a little bit about that, because that relates also to what you have been hearing around here. So networks really themselves are the biggest thing on Earth. Everything is connected, which has a network connection. You can call anybody everywhere. You can connect to every cloud service anywhere. And that's, nothing else is like that. That means that there are tens of millions of pieces in the global networks that all need to work seamlessly together, extremely reliably, all the time, for these connections to work, for any of these services to work, any of the Alexa services, any of the Google search services, anything to work. And this requires actually a lot of automation nowadays. So for network management, for making the network to be in good condition, be reliable, we're using many of the technologies discussed here. Analytics, machine learning. So we have software that can learn when one's starting to listen to what the network does, not any of your calls or anything like that, just what the network is doing to keep up the calls. Within a few weeks, it will learn the normal operation, how the calls are. There are more calls during daytime and so than nighttime, etc. How people watch or consume more data in the evenings at homes and in the offices at days. And then it can automatically start finding anomalies to this. It can alert the human managers that there's something now which shouldn't be happening, please take a look in this. And that's how we can keep the networks in good condition. And we means really also Nokia, because we're managing a lot of these networks for our operator customers. It goes down even to the machine, like individual equipment level. We can now predict, for some types of cases, a few hours or a few days into the future when some software is going to malfunction or some device hardware is going to malfunction. So we're already using the predictive technologies to make the networks themselves more intelligent and be able to serve all the usage that you and in the future the machines have for them. But I'd like to talk a little bit about this impact of all this connectivity that this network intelligence allows, and that's connecting all the intelligent things. As I mentioned, depending on who you believe, in the next 10 years there will be at least 50 billion, maybe up to 1 trillion things on Earth which are connected, and things are anything from your household things to your cars to even the simple things like it is actually going to get so cost efficient and low power that you could even connect a water bottle that was used there as an example, if you find a use case for that, if there's a business model to actually utilize that. Because like with the new networks, you can connect something with, for example, sensing temperature, and that connection, like the tag that you put on the device, on the, like, let's say for food, for example, you're transporting, it may cost like €1. And for 1 year to have that on that, maybe that costs you as connection cost also €1 in the future. And you can have that for 10 years on a single battery on that thing, communicating and providing you with data. So it almost becomes that whatever you need to connect, you can connect for sensors, for temperature, pressure, water flow, whatever, and you can then use that data. And you can almost forget, because it was so cheap, you can almost forget and where it was. But you don't need to forget actually, because all of these will have positioning capability. If you don't remember, or if you want to know where some of your products is globally, you can ask it and find it. It will be able to tell where it is. You can stay connected to any of your products that you send out in the world, sell, get data from that, what condition it is. So this is going to be a totally different future for how you can utilize and keep track of your products, whatever you do. And the thing which comes back to the speech recognition is that it's not just your query. When was that US president born, or when was the German unification, or things like that, that goes to the data centers via the networks. It's also these devices, or there are the software behind it, already now starts to be able to define or know which of the family members is talking. And basically it can in the future realize also were you happy, were you sad, were you angry when you were talking, what kind of tone. And if at the same time all these connected devices at your home, measuring your temperature, measuring your energy consumption, basically there's going to be a vast amount of data personally about you and your environment in the future. And all of this is collected by the service providers, currently the big American companies mostly. And the machines are not learning individually. When we humans are learning something, of course we are mainly learning by ourselves. The machines, all the intelligence actually is centralized, typically. And all the machines are learning collectively. So that's a big difference. Whatever happens in the world, basically technically, any of the other machines can utilize by a central intelligence. So stupid machines can become intelligent because they're connected via the networks to the central intelligence that can make them behave like they were intelligent, the machines themselves. And all of those machines, the sensor data, everything, can be shared by the central intelligence, which is getting more like intelligent all the time. I'm not painting a picture here of like the singularity of things, but it's just important to understand that the learning mechanism between humans and machines is going to be totally different because of this sharing of the data between the machines. And I'd like to kind of maybe end my presentation with a question to you, that what do you see, or what would you like to be done in this kind of a world where you can connect anything with very low cost, very low power consumption, get data from it, or make it do something for you, and when all this intelligence of the world is available for any of these devices? Thank you.